Good morning and welcome to the Chairman of the Regional Representative Council Indonesia, Bapak Sultan Baktiar Najamudin. Welcome, Pak. And of course, welcome to our esteemed speakers. I see some familiar faces, frequent speakers, and it's great to see some new friends as well. Well, I do apologize for the delay. There was some unexpected circumstances this morning at the main entrance of the blue zone, causing congestion for a lot of people to walk in. Okay, let's get on to it. We're going to talk about strengthening the indigenous people and local communities, IPLC, in forest area. So IPLC play a central role in preserving the forest and its surrounding communities. In Indonesia, many of the forest area are still within their settlement. But the economic potential for sustainable forests under IPLC is often underutilized. To set the tone for the discussion this morning, please join me in welcoming the Chairman of the Regional Representative Council Indonesia, Bapak Sultan Baktiar Najamudin, for a keynote.
Yeah, sorry, I have problem with my leg. Injury soccer. So around 2 months ago, I have a very good event with Minister of Agriculture. We plant the corn, and after this, I play soccer with young people. So I crash landed. So I'm sorry. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. How are you? Everybody, I hope today is a good day. And as a speaker and chairman of Indonesia Senate, I have come with sincere greeting from all region of Indonesia to speak about strengthening indigenous people and local communities in forest area to increase economy benefit. For that, let us look at development of democracy in the past 5 years. Let me deliver a mixed language, right? Bahasa in English. Yeah, as I said, we will see, let us look at the development of democracy over the 5 years. In many countries, democracy has reached saturation point. It has often caused instability due to the internal and external factors. Rapid change that from geopolitical dynamic and technological disruption, as well as lack of innovation, have created a gap between true ascent of deliberative democracy and its current practices that endanger the environment. These trends are being aggravated by declining capacity of the environment as the result of over-exploitation of natural resources, including forests. The pursuit of profit-oriented, quantitative instead of qualitative growth has only brought forth threats and dangers to climate change and the global warming mitigation effort. We need a new paradigm, a new strategy, because all mitigation paradigm have only leads us to bigger threat to the environment. In Indonesia, therefore, I published a book last year entitled Green Democracy. Jadi Bapak Ibu sekalian, teman-teman semua, eh, 1 tahun yang lalu, sebelum saya jadi ketua DPD RI, saya meluncurkan buku Green Demokrasi. Green Demokrasi yang tadi saya sampaikan bahwa ini muncul dari begitu banyak masalah keprihatinan, tapi bukan di Indonesia, bukan hanya di Indonesia, tapi di dunia. Nah, tadi saya sampaikan bahwa akhirnya kami munculkan buku Green Demokrasi dan baru 5 hari yang lalu saya bersama hampir 25.000 masyarakat, lebih dari 30 duta besar di Indonesia, kemudian ada para kepala daerah, gubernur, bupati, wali kota, lalu aktivis lingkungan, kemudian masyarakat umum, kita merayakan atau berjalan bersama yang saya namakan Green Demokrasi Fun Walk, kurang lebih 5 km, dan kita tetapkan bahwa 9 November kemarin sebagai Green Democracy Day atau Hari Demokrasi Hijau. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, saya mau sampaikan ada beberapa hal, karena ini relate betul dengan tema kita pada hari ini, dengan posisi kami sebagai anggota DPD. Anggota DPD itu mewakili daerah-daerah di Indonesia. Kenapa kami katakan bahwa green demokrasi? Nah, dari podium ini juga saya mau sampaikan bahwa saya mengajak seperti kemarin ada konferensi of parties investment, saya mau mengajak semua negara untuk bergabung dalam gerakan demokrasi. Kita mulai dari Indonesia, karena Indonesia adalah negara tropis yang paling besar, kita punya Indigenous people yang paling banyak, kita punya kepulauan yang paling besar, 17.000 pulau lebih, kita punya etnisitas yang luar biasa, makanya kampanye dalam gerakan Green Demokrasi kita mulai dari Indonesia. Kami pelopori ini dengan keyakinan bahwa inovasi demokrasi harus mampu mendorong pertumbuhan ekonomi yang berkualitas, yang pro ekosistem dan pro ekologi, agar musyawarah, kebijakan dan program demokrasi benar-benar memberi dampak positif bagi kesejahteraan masyarakat. Karena menurut kami, menurut sejarah Indonesia dan tentu juga dunia, masyarakat adat, Indigenous people, adalah penjaga pertama dan terbaik bagi hutan, sungai, dan tanah yang kita huni. Bagi komunitas hutan bukanlah aset untuk dieksploitasi, melainkan semesta, kehidupan, dan sumber keberlangsungan. Mereka memiliki hukum adat yang mengajarkan bahwa kehidupan tidak akan lestari jika seluruh pohon ditebang dan sungai mengering. Oleh karena itu, alam harus diberi kesempatan untuk beristirahat. Ya, Bapak Ibu sekalian, when we talk about Indigenous people, we must also talk about their local wisdom, which are crucial for formulating a global strategy toward forestry and overland uses, net sink 2030, as well as transformation to inclusive green economy. The Indonesian government and a parliament are commitment to making the forestry sector a key pillar in a climate change mitigation. We have reduced deforestation rate to its lowest point in 2 decades, rehabilitate 3.6 million hectares of land, and expanded the forest-based carbon economy. Indonesia is very seriously committed to strengthening the economy value of carbon, as mandated by a decree issued by my president, our president, Mr. President Prabowo Subianto, which included carbon trading and greenhouse gas emission control. This policy has been reinforced by the second National Determined Contribution (NDC) Climate Commitment Document, which play a crucial role in fostering sustainable economy. In Indonesia is NDC, the second NDC, in September 2022, has set a target of reducing greenhouse gas emission individually to 31.98% and collectively to 43.20% with international support. Indonesia has also fulfilled its obligation under the 2015 Paris Agreement, and it is targeting net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. We will also regret more than 10 million hectares of degraded forests and empower local communities to have sustainable future. The Indonesian Senate has promoted a development model that balances prosperity, sustainability, and local wisdom. We therefore propose that South cooperation involving tropical forests, rich countries such as Indonesia, Brazil, Congo, and our partners in ASEAN be strengthened through exchanges of indigenous people knowledge and local wisdom. Also, a crucial at this moment is completion of an inclusive carbon financing scheme and development of an interparliamentary green legislation platform to ensure protection of the right of local communities. To do this, the Indonesian Senate has initiated 3 bills. First, the draft law on climate change management, which will serve as a national legal foundation to regulate carbon pricing, cap and trade, and carbon offset mechanism at the national and regional levels. When passed into law, it will also encourage climate fiscal transfer, financial incentive for regions that successfully reduce emission and preserve the natural environment. This is a concrete form of legislative climate diplomacy by Indonesia's Senate. Second, the draft law of the protection on indigenous people, which included not only recognition of their right, but also a protection and empowerment of such peoples. This bill will integrate indigenous knowledge and incorporate the traditional knowledge or indigenous people into global solution to the climate crisis. Third is the bill on regional island as an integral part of the Indonesian archipelago, which will ensure the right of people on those many islands and preserve the environment at the same time, while ensuring fair utilization of natural resources therein. I therefore hope that this COP30, is not only a mere venue for a policy presentation, but also a space for a rising awareness for fulfilling multilateral commitment. One that will spur all participating countries to take concrete action on climate change and a global warming mitigation effort. From the Sahara Desert of the Amazon rainforest and from the coast of Sumatra to the mountains of Papua, the Mother Nature is whispering the same message. Life can only be sustainable if human beings live in harmony with it in the balanced way. All these are contained in my books, Green Democracy, because not only is restoring the Mother Nature of our shared ecological responsibility, it is our highest spiritual and political duty to sustain human civilization. Terima kasih banyak teman-teman semua. Thank you, obrigado. Makasih.
Thank you, Chairman of the Regional Representative Council Indonesia, Bapak Sultan Baktiar Najamudin. So 9 November, we celebrated the Green Democracy Day to ensure that the indigenous people and all the people have the rights to participate in the decisions that affect their life and its surrounding environment. So we will touch base on the strategy to strengthen the role and capacity of the IPLC, the Indigenous People and Local Communities. And together we're going to work on the forest-based business models that provide economic incentives for them, as well as some innovative financing schemes and incentives that could probably can increase their income, but at the same time maintaining its forest cover. So let's get started by inviting our moderator for the session. Please welcome. He is the Policy Advocacy Manager, Climate Reality Project Indonesia, Bapak Ari Wijanarko Adi Pratomo.
Thank you, Ka, and good morning to all the delegates. Distinguished delegates, panelists, colleagues, and friends. Good morning and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you all, and have a good morning here at Indonesian Pavilions in COP30 in Belém, Brazil. My name is Ari Wijanarko Adi Pratomo, and I will be the moderator for these sessions. I am from the Climate Reality Project Indonesia. Across Indonesia, as mentioned before by Bapak Ketua, indigenous people and also local communities have safeguards forests for generations. Their stewardship is not only ecological, but also cultural, economic, and essential to Indonesia's climate ambition. Before we begin, please allow me to introduce the panelists. First, we have Bapak Yuli Prasetyo Nugroho, the Director for Social Forestry Empowerment, Ministry of Forestry. Bapak, please come forward. Please give a round of applause to Bapak Yuli. Second, we have Ms. Lindsay Allen, Executive Director, Climate and Land Use Alliance. Please warm up applause for Ms. Lindsay. Oh, sorry. Ms. Carolina. Apologies for that. Apologies. Third one, we have Mr. Liv John Fosse, Senior Representative from the Norwegian International Climate and Forest Initiative, NICFI. Bapak Liv, please come forward. Thirdly, we have Ms. Endah Trikurniawati, Director of Fundraising and Development from the Indonesia Environmental Fund. Please give a round of applause for Ibu Nia. And lastly, but not the least, we have Ms. Kania Ramania, Senior Program Specialist from HUMA. Please give her a warm-up applause. So thank you, dear panelists. And since this is the Indonesian Pavilion, probably if it is okay, I will call you Bapak and Ibu, as the way we are directed in Indonesia. So today will be a very interesting discussions, especially that today we also have the protests from the indigenous people that actually also creating a bit of the problem for our sessions, but that's the discussions and that's the dynamic that happened during the COP. So I would probably direct my first question to Pak Yuli from the Indonesian Minister of for Forestry. Pak Yuli, my first question would be, what specific policies or scheme have proven most effective in involving adat and local communities in forest management, Pak?
Thank you, Pak Moderator and colleagues. With Pak John, it's third time we meet in in one session. I think the program is social forestry itself, because the social forestry we have 5 schemes of how to manage the forest, and one of the scheme is customary forest. And in the customary forest, we have now almost 400,000 hectare now, and the next phase of that we have task force now. We have task force to collaborate and accelerate the customary forest in Indonesia, and our ministry is announced in a global event 1.4 million of customary forest, and in all of the scheme of social forestry now we have 8.3 hectares. And we have beneficiaries almost 1.4 million household. I think it's a very important thing to participate the battle of climate change mitigation and adaptation plan, because they are closely to the forest, closely to the environment that the worst effect from climate change. Thank you.
Okay, Pak Yuli, very interesting since you mentioned that the indigenous community are the closest to the forest. And then there are so many programs from the Minister of Forestry. But if I may, since its implementation, Pak, what measurable economics or social or environmental benefits, Pak, that have impacted or emerged from the social forestry?
Thank you. I think in 8.3 million hectares in 1.4 household, we need a lot of homework to have community plan, and especially adat community plan in Indonesia. And we need more hard work and need collaboration with another institution, donor, philanthropists, to accelerate the household, the most very little community in forest area, household in inner or in outside forest area need to be helped with our scheme, with management plan, with market engagement, and we need a lot of raising of their capacity to become ready with the social economic valuation. And now is more issue it in Indonesia, and we have now studying about 18 community of adat to be economic valuation. And now in 18 community we have almost 250,000 million per years. I think is very big, but we can accelerate it with help from government, GSO, and another institution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Yuli. probably I would like to also ask you the last question, Pak Yuli, if I may. Since there are a lot of discussions and a lot of good samples from the regional levels and also village levels, is there any clear success story that can be elevated, Pak, to the provincial level from the grassroots level, Pak? Yeah, scale up.
Oh yeah. I think we have best practice in Indonesia about adat community plan, and can be accelerated is with when the community is involved all the stakeholders, like women participation, youth in adat community. I think is a very important thing when the elder and the youth and the woman can be collaboration to have one management system in the closest and the smallest community, and then they become aware, have knowledge to engage the market. I think the best practice way is collaboration in small community, and then we have another community in outer, inside, or the beside of their community to engage with their collaboration. And now we have practicing to other to local champion. We have now 90 local champions in Indonesia from youth adat community in Indonesia, and I think we can accelerate them to make engagement with another community to make community plan in other community to all over Indonesia. But it's still need to hard work with all community, because we have now just we have 160 for community, and now we have 40% or 40 or some 40 until 60%. They have community plan.
Okay.
We need a lot of work in next year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please give a round of applause to Pak Yuli. Thank you, Pak Yuli. Your insights on how policy frameworks, rights allocations, and also empowerment structures become real only when the communities see the benefits on the ground. Now, I would like to move to the next panels, to Ms. Carolina. We heard from the government. Now, we would like to widen the lens to the global perspective and the civil society experience, especially from KLUA, on the works in Asia, Latin America, and also Congo basins, which offer valuable comparative lessons. Ibu Carolina, if I may, I have a few questions for you following the discussion from the Minister of Forestry. Based on KLUA's experience in Brazil, Peru, or many other areas in the world, what models have been the most successful in empowering indigenous people to protect forests while improving their economic resilience?
Yes,
Over to you.
I'm Terima kasih. I'm very glad to be here today. There are, as you said, we work in Mexico, Central America, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, and Indonesia. And all over those different places, what we see is that the securing rights, indigenous territories, and customary forest is one of the most effective climate policies and strategies that exist. As both PACs mentioned before, it is in the indigenous territories that we see lower deforestation rates, for example, 2 to 3 less lower reforestation rates in different countries. It is 80% of the biodiversity is held in indigenous territories. And also what we see is that they are not only carbon sinks, which is something that is constantly mentioned, But I think it's also very important for us to think about the role of forests, indigenous territories, and indigenous and traditional knowledge in adaptation to climate change and resilience. We are already experiencing all the different impacts of climate everywhere, and I think it's very important for us to also put a lot of emphasis and effort on that. What we have seen all over is that securing rights is the first step, because when we have secure rights, collective rights to the territories, but then also other collective rights, we can defend those territories, make more sustainable management of those forests, and strengthen governance systems. We have to understand that we can't achieve any climate goal without the strong governance systems that are led by indigenous peoples, local communities, and in Latin America also Afro-descendants. The other element is also related to what we call in Indonesia restorative economy, which is related to valuing more standing forests than clear-cut areas, relying also, like Pras was saying, on the collaboration between different stakeholders. I would say not only indigenous peoples, women, elders, youth, but also different sectors of society, because what we are seeing is different innovation ecosystems related to local governments, the national government, including through the partnership with DPD RI, with Ibunia here, but also bringing policy and research together. What we are doing at LUA is also trying to promote proof of concepts of how this restorative economy could look like, and then also link that to strategic communications and also knowledge sharing, so that we can understand, okay, what does this look like, right? Because there is no way that we can achieve all of the climate goals without transitioning the economy itself, to a low emission, climate resilient economy, and we need to start looking at the territorial level and how that can happen. CLUA works with different stakeholders doing that, including some partners here like BUMA as well, and we look forward also to, we're right now actually in a house of social bioeconomy, bringing partners from Indonesia together with Brazilian partners to talk about social bioeconomy and how we can position that as a South-South key climate solution.
Okay, thank you, Ibu. Since you mentioned before, there are several different enabling conditions for the Indonesia especially. What do you think is the most important for Indonesia to implement in terms of the enabling conditions, or which one to prioritize actually in terms of government reforms, rights strengthening, or financing solutions to elevate basically the IPLC leadership?
Yes, I think first it starts with a way of seeing the world and the narratives, right? Because we're talking not only about indigenous peoples contributing to something or participating, but actually leading and being the protagonist of climate action on the ground. So I would start first with that. Then, as you mentioned, access to finance is very important in terms of different financial mechanisms, but also direct access. One thing that CLUA and partners are supporting everywhere is also territorial funds and the connection of those funds and those organizations also with government institutions like the DPD RI and policy-making institutions. So that's one, like the access to finance element and how people govern the funds that and make decisions over that. Then it is related also to the connection to different existing innovations that we're already seeing also in Indonesia. Pras mentioned the acceleration task force for the customary forest, so we are also eager to support that as it brings together not only different government organizations, but also civil society organizations. And when we bring together all these different actors to put policies, to create policies, create mechanisms, I think it is when it's most effective. And then we have also been working with DPD RI on blended finance, right? Also as a kind of innovation to see how we can bring not only, right now is more public finance and philanthropy, but also hopefully leverage more private finance to also then support the different social forestry enterprises that we are supporting. I know that through the partnership that we have already supported 120 social forestry enterprises with different areas of work, from nurseries to tourism, for example, and a lot of them have already reached platinum status. So now the idea is also to keep growing the ecosystem, keep connecting and learning among them. And then, of course, going back to specific numbers on how, for example, across Indonesia, in forest-dependent communities, the use of non-forest timber products make up to 45% of the income, and in Papua, it's even 65%. So we are already seeing the value for the forest communities, but I think the challenge now, and perhaps also the opportunity, is how that connects to the whole of economy transition of the whole of Indonesia.
Okay, last question, Ibu Carolina. What would be the most important priorities for the KLUA looking ahead? And how do you see the relation with the Indonesian Environmental Fund, BPDLH, is going to strengthen your collaborations?
Yes, I would say there are three main priorities for KLUA's work in Indonesia, especially building on the momentum that we are seeing right now in COP30. One is to continue to partner with different organizations, including BPDLH, on securing indigenous rights and customary forest, including through the collaboration and support with the Task Force for Customary Forest Acceleration. So that's one. And again, continuing to support organizations and indigenous peoples on the ground and the ecosystem of organizations themselves. That's one. The other one, as I said, is the restorative economy, and that goes from the support, continuing support to the social forestry enterprises, the business proposals, but also the connection with all the different members of the innovation ecosystem, like policy, research, national level and subnational level governments, at the same time creating these proof of concepts that I mentioned before, so that we can actually have evidence that this actually works. And then the third one, which I think is very important because was mentioned also at the beginning, is since we work in Brazil and in Latin America, what we want to do is build on the momentum of COP30 to continue the learning and exchange between Brazil and Indonesia. We have a very strong team here, a strong team led by Ibu Dewi here, also in Indonesia. So we are starting some approaches between different government institutions, also different civil society organizations, to promote learning around different topics. One is social bioeconomy or restorative economy. The other one is land tenure systems. Also government institutions, for example, here in Brazil we have the Indigenous Peoples Ministry. So we are also looking forward in the future to supporting, as we can, the Indigenous Peoples Bill in Indonesia, strengthening governance systems. And then also what we see is climate leadership from the Global South. I have seen a lot of the pictures of President Prabowo and President Lula shaking hands, and I do think we are seeing a change in multilateralism with the leadership of Global South organizations, where we have a lot of tropical forests. So I do think there's an opportunity to sustain that momentum, including work around the intergovernmental land tenure commitment and the 1.4 million hectares and hopefully more that we can continue to work on after COP.
Thank you so much, Ibu Carolina. Please give her a round of applause. Now I would like to turn our attention to the philanthropic perspective. Now we understand that the NICFI has been long-standing bilateral partner who has been supporting Indonesia for over a decade. Norway NICFI bring a result-based angle to a forest and community programs. Pak Leif, some question for you. First, on your opinion, how can Indonesia optimize economic benefits from forest resource while maintaining the local wisdom and also ecological integrity, Pak Leif? Over to you, Pak.
Thank you. And terima kasih. And noting this is a very competitive listening and speaking environment.
Indeed.
I hope I got your question right. Anyway, so social forestry, as we know, is part of Indonesia's plan to make its forest and land use sector a net sink by 2030. This means the sector will absorb more greenhouse gases than it emits. A very ambitious goal and something for others to learn from. Securing land rights and management rights for indigenous peoples and local communities is key to achieve this goal. That's why Norway is very pleased that our result-based contributions also support social forestry initiatives in Indonesia. So this social forestry program is ambitious, and what has been achieved is exemplary. The goal is to give communities management rights over almost 13 million hectares, I understand. And so far, 8 million has been achieved. Very impressive results on the ground. We also commend, of course, Indonesia's commitment, confirmed by the Minister of Forestry last week, to secure at least 1.4 million hectares, as noted already by previous speakers. So, allowing local communities, indigenous peoples, to manage forests sustainably is not only an effective way to protect forests, it also improves forest people's lives. Social forestry helps communities create sustainable income. I believe that was your question. Through activities like ecotourism or non-timber forest harvesting, and can improve food security. For instance, agroforestry allows people to grow food within the forests, which is far better for both people and nature than clearing forest for large-scale monoculture plantations. I think this is the experience we have from many places, that if you leave the forest standing, the local climate improves, there's more rain, there's less drought, and there's more food security. So agroforestry is a key part of the social forestry program, as I understand. Now, leaving time for other speakers, I shall stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Alif. Another follow-up question, Pak. From Norway's perspective, what outcomes do you hope to see from the sport to community-based program like social forestry?
Right. So Norway believes that indigenous peoples, other communities, are the best guardians of the forests. There is a lot of documentation now, including from the IPCC and the IPBS, the equivalent panel for the CBD, that where indigenous peoples and local communities' rights are recognized, there is substantially less deforestation, as we just noted. But there are some conditions that must be fulfilled, and these have been formulated by the Global Alliance of Territorial Communities, of which Aman is a member. These include access to territories which they have traditionally occupied, opportunity to maintain the forests that sustain their livelihoods and their spiritual values and traditional knowledge. And this is what indigenous peoples refer to by self-determination. Important to note the difference, right? It's the opportunity to maintain their values and their lifestyle. And I believe social forestry, and especially hutan adat, akselerasi, is a great way of doing that. So it's really exemplary of Indonesia to go forward this way. And if I understand the speaker, Pak Baktiar, correctly, I understand the Bill of Indigenous Peoples' Rights is also on the table now, which is fantastic news. Thank you so far.
Thank you, Pak Alif. And probably the last question, Pak. What type of monitoring or impact reporting would you like to consider the most meaningful and transparent, Pak?
Well, quite simply, we have quite some experience now from many regions that using their traditional knowledge and management practices, communities everywhere indigenous peoples, Adat communities, local communities, they can contribute significantly to forest monitoring, especially when they are allowed to live in their traditional areas in the forest. They see what's happening. They have they have generational knowledge to tell them what is happening to the forest. What is happening to the forest under climate change? Why are the changes so fast? They understand from past knowledge that what must be done. They can contribute to scientific knowledge and scientific monitoring. And I believe that would be the best result and the best opportunity to protect our forests more effectively. And this applies in Sami areas in Norway, this applies in Adat areas in Indonesia and everywhere in between. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Lif. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you, Pak Lif, for the emphasis of transparency and co-benefits outcome, which is crucial for strengthening trust and also long-term cooperations. Now, I would like to move towards the next panelist, Ibu Nia, from the BPD-LH, or the Indonesian Environmental Fund. Ibu Nia, we know that the Indonesian Environmental Fund determines whether community programs can receive sustainable and also long-term financial support. In your opinion, Ibu Nia, how will Indonesian Environmental Fund support community-based programs under social forestry? Can you share recent financing or disbursement models, Ibu? Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mas Ari. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, maybe the first thing we would like to share is regarding the role of IF. The role IF of Indonesian Environment Fund or BPD-LH is to support the government project program regarding the international commitment, also national commitment. So at this point, when the establishment of IF since 6 years ago, we developed a theory of change and we coordinate with the relevant land ministry, and then we set up the priority program and also the outcome, what kind of the outcome and also the program thematic will be achieved. And then based on the coordination, we set up 5 thematic program, and one of them is the FOLU and ecosystem management. And for the outcome, inter alia regarding the emission reduction and also sustainable livelihood. So it means one of the outcome related to the sustainable livelihood is one of our concern as well. And based on the existing fund that we are managing right now, of course, we would like to develop a kind of the financial ecosystem for the social forestry program in Indonesia. And then referring to the business process of the social forestry program, which covers that in the first beginning, the government will permit the social forestry forest management inside forest area, and then after that the government also require social forestry group to develop the business plan of the social forestry, and then the next, of course, they have to run the business of social forestry. So at this point, in the beginning, IF will provide a grant to the social forestry group or adat community group Indonesia using the grant scheme in Indonesia. And after the enabling conditions strengthened by using the grant, we also provide revolving fund using the state budget, Bapak Ibu. And then right now we already have around 50,000 debtor distributed around Indonesia. We provide state revolving fund with low interest. Maybe this is the lowest interest in Indonesia because we only provide 3% interest rate for the revolving fund. And then after that, we also maybe in the next or in the future, we also do hope the social forestry group or adat community group can develop their business and also scale up the market. And at this point, we also under process assist them to get the market, to scale up the market. And by having the blended finance, of course, we do hope we can mobilize the private fund, maybe starting by identifying the off-taker in the beginning, and then after that we can look for the investor to put some investment to be a capital of the community group, to scale up their business, and then at the end maybe they can scale up their class of the social forestry group, maybe starting from the KUPS, we call it KUPS, or maybe a social forestry group into the company, because there is some or one example in Sumatra. So from social forestry group, they become a company and then they already export the commodity to the Dubai. So this is kind of the good example for us how we can make other community group to do the same thing. This is maybe the thing that we already have right now.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Nia. The follow-up question from that, since you mentioned there are different funds that are already available, is there any kind of achievement that can be shared with us, Ibu, on those different funds?
Yeah. Thank you, Mas Ari. Since IF establishment 6 years ago, we already managed around 1.7 billion US dollar, and then 50% of the fund is intended for forestry issue. And then, of course, when we talk about the forestry issue, it will be included. It will be included issue of the community, including social forestry issues at this point. And then right now, we have good cooperation with the KLUA and also Norway. And then from the KLUA, right now the collaboration already close, but hopefully there will be a continuation. And then referring to the collaboration with the KLUA, we already have some achievement. Maybe the first one, we already assist to around 1.7 community group, adat community group surrounding Indonesia. And we also already assist community group or adat community group, customary group to establish social forestry business plan. Around 90 customary group in Indonesia. And also maybe the most important, because refer to the Pak Menteri statement in the previous maybe couple days ago, that the government has commitment to accelerate the recognition of the forest area, customary forest area, around 1.4 million hectare. And then using the KLUA fund, we already support for customary forest recognition, and then for 12 forest recognition is under process right now. And then we also have a good collaboration with Norway as well, because we got around 216 million US dollar for the follow netting. And then one of the comment of follow netting, as we know, that is regarding the rehabilitation, and then sub of component rehabilitation is social forestry. So some of the fund is also intended to social forestry program, but because the program is still running, we haven't measured the achievement yet right now. And also another fund coming from the Green Climate Fund. This is incentive from Green Climate Fund for emission reduction under the program RED Plus. And then the fund is also contributing to the acceleration of the social forestry permit around 2.5 million hectares. So this is maybe just some of achievement, but we do hope by assisting collaboration with the international partner, we can achieve more later on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Nia. Last question, Ibu Nia. Since Ibu Nia mentioned about the linkage of the social forestry, sustainable livelihoods, and also carbon finance, I would like to ask you, Ibu Nia, what kind of lessons we can draw from those linkages, Bu, between the social forestry, sustainable livelihood, and also carbon finance?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Sorry, the linkage, Ibu, the linkage of the our lesson learned in the linkage of the social forestry, sustainable financing, and also carbon finance.
Maybe based on the lesson learned that we have, I think it is important we assist the adat community group in Indonesia to define what the priority commodity that can potentially develop that can develop into the market. This is the first thing. And the second one, of course, maybe we also can focusing on downstream processing. We can start how adat community to maintain the supply of the commodity, and then how they can develop the supply chain, and then how the standardize of the community. So if we have all of those things, I think we can make sure that commodity generated by the adat community can enter to the market later on in the future, I think. Yeah, that's all I think for the lesson learned right now.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Nia. Please give her a round of applause. Now I would like to move our attentions to Huma. We're gonna close these discussions with the civil society and right-based perspective. Since Huma works directly with the adat communities and brings essential insight from the ground, I would like to ask Ms. Kanina Ramania, Kak Kanina, what lesson or good practices from community-led initiative should inform Indonesian environmental funds, forest and nature finance strategy, and how can they mainstream nationally, Kak Nina? Over to you.
Cik. Thank you so much for the question. Good morning, delegates. Selamat pagi, Bom Dia. My name is Kanina Ramania. I'm from Huma as a communication officer. So to answer that question, thank you so much for the question. Our best practices have included the carrying out of our program called Sekolah Pendamping Hukum Rakyat. And in that we have, for the lack of better word, given capacity building initiatives for the indigenous peoples so that they can be empowered and they can draft contracts or they can negotiate so that when extractive industries or even when they are face to face with the government that is trying to go into their livelihood from their living space and take away the very little that they have. This program, Sekolah Pendamping Hukum Rakyat, from our experiences have been proven to provide and empower them to be able to have a bargaining power when they are face to face with extractive industries, government. Not only that, we have to emphasize the importance of the recognition of customary forest in that we need to acknowledge that at the end of the day, the best practice from our experiences that the recognition of customary forest has been proven to improve their quality of life, and it is from all kinds of aspects, ecology, their economy. So that it is important to note that at the end of the day, recognition of customary forests, that should be the priority.
Okay, thank you, Kak. If I may follow up to that, Kak Kanina, what do community needs most to optimize the benefit sharing, whether it's a legal recognition, market access, or financial literacy, Kak Kanina?
Okay, thank you so much. What the indigenous peoples and local communities need the most, first of all, we have to acknowledge that while we are talking about indigenous peoples and local communities, we should have their representatives in the panel with us today, right? That should not be out of question. But to answer that question from the little we know from our experiences, it is important to give an emphasis for a rights-based paradigm as opposed to investment-based paradigm. And why is that important? It is because in the current SNDC, the 2031 to 2035, we have to acknowledge that indigenous peoples and local communities have not been put at the forefront of the SNDC. We have to acknowledge that apparently their existence in the SNDC has only been acknowledged as best practice, as only mentioned as best practice, and this means that our government has not prioritized their rights, their well-being, their livelihood, and that we should be able to criticize this. So to conclude the answer to that question, we need to shift the paradigm from investment-based paradigm to rights-based paradigm and see what indigenous peoples and local communities actually need and put their rights at the forefront.
Thank you, Kak Ananina. Since you also underlined the importance of the right-based paradigm, I would like to ask the last question, but also probably the most important for me. Since we are at the COP30, what is the key message and also equity messages should Indonesia and also other developing countries emphasize in climate finance negotiations? What role can the civil society and also customary society plays on this one, Kak Anina? Over to you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. What role can civil society play? The first one, we have to acknowledge that civil society has become pushing power, whistleblowers, to make sure that negotiations or discussions about economic benefits or opportunities do not fall into yet another green corruption, green grabbing. Civil society has a role to do that, to ensure that. And the second one, civil society needs to and has the role to ensuring that negotiations do not lose its importance, its partiality to vulnerable communities and the people who need it the most. And the third one is that there is a dire importance for civil society to include the voices of indigenous peoples, local communities, farmers, women, youth at the forefront. And this means that the commitment to not only vulnerable groups, but I will only talk about indigenous peoples and local communities here. It is important that us as civil society, we have to acknowledge that the commitment to indigenous peoples and local communities' rights should not only take places in forums like this, and this means that the discussions of indigenous peoples and local communities' rights have to prioritize the indigenous peoples' bills, the ones that have been postponed for more than 10 years. It is important to acknowledge that discussion should exist outside of these forums as well.
Thank you so much, Kak Anina. Please give her a round of applause. Unfortunately, delegates, we are running out of time. I've been notified by the committee that we're running out of time. Distinguished delegates, today's discussions underscores one powerful message. When indigenous people and local communities lead, forests thrive, and climate solutions become both sustainable and just. Indonesia's experience shows that rights, governance, and financing must work hand in hand to unlock community leaderships. On behalf of the Indonesian Environmental Fund and the Indonesia Pavilion, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you so much, panelists, for your insights and also engagement. I look forward for another session with the Indonesian Environmental Fund. And I will respectfully return the floor to MC. Over to you, Kak.